So guys, this is going to be one of the worst news stories I've had to cover in recent time, and that's saying a lot considering what's going on right now. But for many of you, which I know you're trans, I know a lot of you are gender non-conforming, I know a lot of you just don't really vibe with the idea of there only being men and women. Maybe you just question your gender identity, and maybe you're like gender fluid. There's a lot of different diverse gender identities, and frankly, I think everybody should be free to identify however the fuck they want. And I think that due to just a general sense of politeness and common decency in society, whether you agree with the philosophy of trans people's existence or not, you should still respect their pronouns, their names, etc., just out of sheer politeness. The idea of not doing that, insane to me. But a lot of people find this to be such a threat to their freedom of speech. They have created a war against trans people and against trans identities, hyper-focusing on the idea that trans people are a threat to children. The right has historically been very successful in fear-mongering about the idea of insert thing the left is supposedly responsible for or in favor of corrupting or harming children. They've done this a million times. Hell, they used to do it when claiming Harry Potter needed to be banned because it was teaching children to do witchcraft. Funny how different things are now in that regard, huh? Regardless, though, recently there was a push by, I believe it was, it wasn't Oklahoma, was it? I think I just have Oklahoma on the mind. I think it was, like, Nebraska or something. It was one of those very, like, rural red states. Passed a law that banned trans kids, or minors in general, 17 or younger, from getting any kind of trans-affirming care. And following that state, Tennessee proceeded to push for the same thing, and it got challenged and taken to the Supreme Court. And so now, just today, the Supreme Court finalized its ruling on whether or not bans on gender-affirming care, period, are unconstitutional or not. They ruled that in the case of, I forget what the first state that did it was, that, like, started the precedent, that it was constitutional in that case. And they also ruled now that it would be constitutional if Tennessee does it. And so now, Tennessee is going through with the gender-affirming care ban, or youth gender-affirming care ban, essentially meaning in multiple U.S. states now, it is illegal to be a trans minor. If you are a minor and you are trans in Tennessee, anyone who facilitates your transition is committing a crime. And this is just the start. The Supreme Court has ruled that this is fully constitutional. I have no doubt that doing this during Pride Month was absolutely intentional. So with that said, this nightmare ruling is going to have a lot of down-trickle effects, and it's going to be important for us all to know what those are going to be and what states and localities are going to be the most likely to take advantage of this precedent and start using it to apply policy that directly impacts the trans, gay, or just LGBT populations in these areas in general. Bro, even Iran lets you have gender transition surgery? Yeah, listen, red states in America are so much more backwards than even, like... I'm gonna be honest, if like, you took the average American red state and, like, slapped it in the Middle East, they would be chopping off women's labias in a year, okay? I promise you, dude. Without the federal U.S. government stopping them, the red states would be, like... They'd be going hard on that, like, conservative chauvinist bullshit that's so commonly associated with, like, radical Islam and what have you.
Good morning.
Oh, Jesus, God, I didn't hit that button. Anyway, though, with that in mind, let's hop into this news story and talk about the impact that this ruling is going to have. Because if you're trans and you live in certain states that vote a certain way, it might be smart to start saving up for a big move. Like now. Because this is bad.
We are coming on the air with breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court, a decision on the fate of a law that restricts access to hormone therapy and other health care for minors going through a gender transition. The High Court just now allowing a Tennessee law that bars such gender-affirming care to stand. This is the very first time the court has directly considered a law like this restricting this type of health care, and now could pave the way for other laws in other states impacting this type of transition-related care for minors. The court.
So, I really need to rant about this because not enough people on the left at all have been talking about it for years and years now, and I got such a massive feeling of validation when a few weeks ago John Oliver did a segment on this topic, one that I felt I was one of the few people on the left with a platform had, like, discussed. There's a big list of groups that have a lot of lawyers. They're usually like Ivy League lawyers, lots of money, corporate backers, and special interest groups working to fund them. And they are just lawyer groups centered around the idea of suing on behalf of people with stories that will circulate massively in right-wing political spheres. And the groups gain prominence through winning landmark court cases with, like, the best legal teams that money can buy on these grounds. The money, what's it called? The dark money group, more or less, that pushed this particular, bill or this law to the Supreme Court were one of these groups. I remember years ago, I did multiple segments about the Alliance Defending Freedom, or ADF, a group that is literally just a hate group that has a ton of lawyers that use their money to legally pursue the victims of hate or institutions that prevent hate. And they try to set new legal precedent. And they've been doing it for years, uploading these cringy, like, annoying animated YouTube videos. They even used to run on ads all the time. And I called out this channel. For years and years, I'd call out this channel, and no one was like, no one really seemed to, like, think it was that big of a deal, I guess. Like, I didn't see a lot of enthusiasm for, like, wanting to target and focus on criticizing the Alliance Defending Freedom and other dark money lawyer groups like it. And then recently, John Oliver did an episode on them. And everything he said was, so good. It was such a good episode. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend checking that out. What's the channel name? John Oliver, Wild Rose. Not the YouTuber, the guy on TV, John Oliver.
Court here split between the conservatives and the liberals, 6-3. The court issuing a lengthy opinion with lengthy dissents still being read from the bench there. I want to bring in now NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas to help me break this decision now. Danny, we've been pouring through it. It's lengthy. There's a lot going on here. But fundamentally, the issue was whether, in fact, this law that was passed by Tennessee is sex discrimination. Does it violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution to try to ban this transition-related care? And the court saying no.
Exactly right. The core question in cases like these is what level of scrutiny applies. What does the court look at in deciding whether or not to strike down this statute and declare it unconstitutional or allow it to survive? That's why there's so much discussion of scrutiny. And the key is, in equal protection challenges, the key is what is the classification? Does the statute classify based on transgender status, or instead does it classify based on medical diagnosis and procedures that are requested? And so in this case, the court concluded that what the law does is it doesn't discriminate based on transgender status. Instead, it removes a certain set of diagnoses from the large list of treatable conditions and procedures.
Essentially what they did was they said, we're not going to say that trans people are bad. We're just going to legally say trans people don't exist, are no longer a protected class, and thus, like, it's now illegal to transition kids. That is literally the line of logic they used to pass this bill. That is the argument they made in court.
Exactly.
puberty blockers.
Right. And the diagnoses that are removed happen to be all diagnoses that relate to transgender persons. But the court says that is still not enough of a distinction to be the invidious, and that's the magic word, the invidious kind of discrimination that would be unconstitutional based on transgender status.
And the Chief Justice says it this way. Basically, this needs to be up to the legislature.
They changed the definition of transgender to make it legal to discriminate against trans people.
This case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in an evolving field. The voices in these debates raise sincere questions, the implications for all.
By the way, guys, keep in mind, Donald Trump has talked about how, and the Supreme Court justices have talked about how several of the oldest of them, the Republican ones, plan to step down during Trump's term, this one, and Trump plans to install the youngest Supreme Court justices the court has ever seen, with the plan of maintaining a Republican majority in the Supreme Court for at least the next 50 years. His goal is to make sure most of us don't even live to see a non-stacked Supreme Court on the Republican side. Even if we're like 25, 28 years into our streak of no Republican presidencies, we'll still have a fully stacked majority Republican Supreme Court.
Are profound. The Equal Protection Clause does not resolve these disagreements. So essentially, look, there are medical experts that say this type of gender transition care is dangerous for minors. There are medical experts say this type of care is essential for minors and it helps prevent suicide. We don't get to decide those types of policy debates. They should be left up to the states. That's what the court is saying.
Exactly right. And Justice Roberts goes to great pains.
Can't Dems stall it until the next president comes in? That's the hope, right? That's the hope, is they can just stall it. But then again, Trump just does things. Like, what you got to understand is Trump, there is no one telling Trump he can't do things. The only people saying Trump can't do things are like the opposition politicians who can just say this is illegal, he should be arrested for this. But like, the cops will never come and arrest him. No armed police force will come and arrest him or tell him, no, Trump, you can't do that. If Trump nominates a Supreme Court justice, that guy will just start coming into work. And that'll just be that. There won't be a approval. There won't be a process done, because all the Democrats who say, what about the process? That's all they'll be able to do, is say, what about the process? And meanwhile, Republicans in office and voters will make nonstop excuses for Trump doing this. It's their biggest dream, is to have a lifetime of a Republican-stacked Supreme Court. So keep in mind, like, even if the Dems try to delay it, you can only delay something that way if the opposing party is even following the process. Trump is not going to follow the process. I don't think he will.
To say it's not the court's role to say whether or not a state statute is a good idea. Instead, he says specifically, states have wide discretion in the area of scientific and medical uncertainty. This is the area that the states are supposed to legislate with the least interference from the federal courts like us.
Talk to me about the policy implications here for other states. As we mentioned, Tennessee not alone here. Some 20 other states have passed laws similar to this. The High Court isn't saying that hormone therapy and puberty blockers are off limits in the state of New York, but they are saying in the states that want to pass those types of bans, you can do it.
Exactly. And
it's identical, more or less, to the consequences of the Roe v. Wade ruling, or I guess, rolling back of the original Roe v. Wade ruling, where now, if a Republican state wants to ban abortion, they just can, because it's no longer protected on a federal level. Now trans rights are no longer protected for as much as they were already on a federal level. Now it is the prerogative of any given red state if they want to go hard on the anti-trans legislation now. We might start to see the criminalization of being trans in public in a lot of these states. Florida's been pushing for it the hardest, and they've gotten really close to... I mean, they already have it set up such that you can go to prison for going to the quote-unquote wrong bathroom in Florida. So we're getting pretty close to criminalizing trans people in the most of red states. Florida's probably going to be the first to criminalize being trans in public. But we're getting close now. The Supreme Court is moving in that direction. They've also expressed that abolishing gay marriage alongside opening up the possibility for passing new laws banning sodomy has also been on the table. So certain red states might return to banning gay sex, obviously banning gay marriage. It's not going to be protected federally anymore in the coming years. These have all been things on the table since the election cycle. Trump has been talking about these being goals.
Another key that states will be watching who are interested in this kind of legislation is the fact that the statute didn't ban all such therapy. I mean, a major distinction was that it distinguished between minors and adults. So adults are still able to get some things that minors cannot. And it's possible that some minors can still get this kind of treatment, but maybe for other diagnoses. So this case will be, for states who are considering similar legislation, really a guidebook for how to pass legislation that will survive constitutional scrutiny.
If you put it in the larger context, what it seems is the conservative majority is sort of following the line that they did in the Dobbs decision. Sort of the post-Roe era is the states get to do what they want. If they want to pass bans, if they want to keep things just as they are, they're able to do it. But we as the court are not going to be the final arbiters of that. The states are going to be the final arbiters of rights that the court thinks, at least the conservative court thinks, are not enshrined in the Constitution.
Conceptually, a lot of Americans, especially like the centrists and apolitical types, think this is a really good way to handle politics in the country on a state-by-state basis. Not even for a second does it cross their minds that, like, based on what state you're born in, whether or not you have rights should not be a thing that you should have to worry about or should be up to chance. You know, like, oh, born in California and you're gay, all good, you know, you don't have to worry about anything. Oh, but you were born in Texas and gay? Well, it's on you to move and get the fuck out of there before you're arrested for being gay. Like, they never think about it like that. The way a lot of, like, normies think about politics in America is like, yeah, that sounds good. It should be a state-based decision, you know? Like, if New York wants to make weed and being gay legal, they can do that. And if Texas wants to do the opposite, they should be able to do that. You know, if you're gay, you live in a blue state. If you're racist or homophobic, you live in a red state. A lot of people probably think that's a good way to handle things and probably support the direction the Supreme Court has been moving in with this. But, you know, most normies don't have the political knowledge or wherewithal or experience to think about, like, maybe that's not a good way to handle politics in America.
One of them being the right to hormone therapy as a minor.
Right. And again, the court goes to some considerable length to emphasize that their role isn't to decide whether or not a statute is just generally proper or a good idea. Instead, the key, they are very limited.
Guys, bad news. I just lost power to my headset. It just shut off. My monitors have no audio either, so I have no PC audio anymore, unfortunately. That sucks. That very much sucks. I forgot to charge my headset last night. It's been years of never forgetting, and last night I had like a lot to do last night, and I totally forgot to put it on the charger overnight. So now this thing is going to have to be on the charger for the next few hours before my PC has any audio capabilities again. It sucks, but you know, it is what it is. I'm sorry, guys. I screwed up on that one. I thought charging it all morning would be enough. Yeah, skill issue. Regardless, though, I'm going to finish up talking about this topic with a closing statement, since we got to watch the majority of this segment, this news story. We are moving in a direction right now where the Supreme Court is handing power over to Republican states to decide whether or not you, and I know I'm saying you like as if I'm talking to everyone in chat, and that's because most of you guys fall into some category of gender nonconformity or non-conventional sexual attraction, like maybe you're gay, maybe you're ace, and these are all groups that are on the table as targets for individual states to use these new provided powers to fuck with your rights. Like, they're going to potentially criminalize your existence if you're trans in some of these states. If you are trans or gay and you're Floridian, Texan, you're from, like, I don't know, Nebraska, Or, oh, especially if you're from, what state is it that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is from? Is she from Georgia? Georgia's especially one you want to get out of. But God, am I thinking of Lauren? What's her name? The lady that like dominated the school board and got really big. What state is Libs of TikTok from? That's who I'm thinking of. Chaya Raichik. Ohio? Get out of Ohio, bro. If you are in Ohio, get out of there. Ohio was a big meme a few years back. I am not memeing now, though. Get the fuck out of Ohio. Really any red state, but those big ones that have been making headlines lately about trying to push the bar on, like, infringing on the rights of LGBT people, prioritize getting out of those states first and foremost. Listen, guys, keep yourselves safe. Seriously. These are some scary times, and I know that just move, forehead, isn't what any of you want to hear at all, but there's really not much else I can say, you know? Like, what I can't, like, bloomer my way through this one. All I can do is tell you guys to prepare and do what's best. If you live in a blue state, you probably have nothing to worry about from this, but if you live in a red state, start preparing to get out of there. Like, don't wait and see if things start getting bad. Start preparing now, because it's gonna get bad. Like, it's gonna. They're moving in that direction. All their plans are going perfectly so far. There have been no hitches or hiccups in their plan. It's all gone perfectly. Things are gonna start getting bad soon. So start preparing now if you haven't already. Frankly, you should have started preparing a week ago, yesterday, a year ago. But now is better than never. Now is better than tomorrow. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. Every thumbs up and every comment you guys leave on my videos and streams boosts my channel in the algorithm and forces the website to show my stuff to more people and help my channel grow, which I really do appreciate. And of course, you can also subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, so that YouTube tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And of course, if you don't know what to comment down below, you can just comment who up Xandering their haul. That'll help the channel just as much as if you commented something like, I don't know, a question or an opinion about the video. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias, linked down below in the description, including my fan Discord, which is the main hub of my community and fan base. In fact, every Friday, every week, I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights there. And on top of that, I also announce all my new uploads and streams there as well. So if you want to not miss anything, that's the place to be. Link down below in the description. And of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.